Hi everyone! The guides asked me to dictate a message called How to Overcome the Imposter Syndrome. The teacher for this teaching is Sebastian, an Ascended Master. So let's get started. We have asked this channel to dictate this message at this time because it is a powerful time to clear out soul fragmentations because Mercury is in retrograde. We will repeat that because it's very important. Mercury retrograde is a potent time to make a quantum leap in your releases and thus a quantum leap into energetic upgrades. Understand that when you clear out your energy, you upgrade that energy. For remember what you learned in physics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. When you clear something out, it is replaced by a higher vibrational aspect of you, and this replacement facilitates an upgrade. So it is in clearing out your energy and understanding your responsibility to your soul fragmentation that will assist you in opening up to your greater multidimensionality. We want to repeat that because it's very important. It is in taking responsibility to your soul fragmentation and transmuting your soul fragmentation that will assist you in opening up to your greater multidimensionality. Because Mercury retrograde is a potent time to make a quantum leap in your releases, it follows that Mercury retrograde is also a potent time to make a quantum leap towards your energetic upgrades. Isn't that interesting? So what we wish to teach you today is we wish to teach you about the imposter syndrome. Many humans feel the imposter syndrome, and we want to define it for you energetically before we begin to reconcile that definition to what you understand as the imposter syndrome. Energetically, the imposter syndrome is an energy that is looking for an anchor. It is an energy that is going like this. It's scanning the horizon, and it needs an anchor. It needs an anchor. If it anchors itself into a soul fragmentation, you get the imposter syndrome. If it anchors itself into your soul-centered knowing, the part of you that is connected to the I am self, that is within the all that is, it becomes quantum manifestation. How interesting is that? A simple change in the anchoring of your energy changes your experience as a human quite significantly. You anchor yourself to a soul fragmentation, you will feel the imposter syndrome. You anchor yourself to the soul-centered you. You ground this energy looking for an anchor to the soul-centered you, and suddenly you are making quantum leaps in your manifestation. Subtle changes in your perception regarding the imposter syndrome will change will change the way in which you experience this energy. So now we want to reconcile what we just taught you to what you understand about the imposter syndrome. Understand that in the website of this channel, there is already a blog for which we discuss the imposter syndrome. And in that channeled message, we define the imposter syndrome as a grave difficulty in honoring oneself. And that is true. You feel like an imposter precisely because the one that works hard, the, the aspect of you that is working hard, working hard, working hard, working hard, working hard, encounters the fragmentation in you that refuses to validate that hard work. And so over time, this aspect of you that's working hard may keep working hard, or they may give up at some point. But it is that at some point, their self-esteem is so low that they're not good enough for anything. They're not good enough for anything. It is just, imagine, it is just like when a child creates a sandcastle, a rudimentary one, and shows it to the parent. Look, look, look what I've done. And the parent, all the parent can say is, how come your castle looks crooked? Without any honoring of the 3 hours the child spent to create that sandcastle. All they can see is it's crooked. Never mind that it was built. The fixation is on the minutia of it being crooked. And so let's say this child, fueled by the criticism, works harder and harder and harder, gets better and better tools. And now they have created a professional looking sandcastle that took them 10 hours of being self-taught on how to create beautiful sandcastles. And again, they're so excited for the work, they show the parent, look, 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 look at my sandcastle. And all the parent says is, why is it so small? Okay, it's no longer crooked, and they were silent as to that matter, but there's no honoring as to the 10 hours the child spent creating this beautiful thing. As to their motivation to be self-taught, to even create the thing in the first place, all they can see is, why is it so small? And understand what the parent could have done. They could have said it the way they said it, which is devoid of any validation, devoid of any honoring as to the child. Or they could have said it differently. They could have said, what a wonderful improvement. What a vast improvement to what you have done before, and how fast you are learning how to make sandcastles like a professional artist. Wouldn't it be so much fun to create another that is larger and to increase your skills? Same message, but the delivery is very different. And the child feels very different. The child feels motivated with the second message. The child feels honored. The child feels empowered. With the first message, the child may keep going, but then they're beginning to resent their parent. They're beginning to resent the person that is supposed to love them unconditionally. And it begins to erode their own capacity to unconditionally love the parent because of this extreme withholding of any kind of honoring or any kind of validation for what has gone right in this endeavor. So understand that when you are engaged in the imposter syndrome, when you feel the imposter syndrome, you're the parent and the child at the same time. You are the parent and the child at the same time. You are the child working hard, earnestly, authentically, and you're also the parent who refuses to honor all of that hard work, to honor your progress. Instead, you are choosing to fixate on a minutia of imperfection that is not even representative of the whole of what has been created. There's a small smudge in that painting I didn't intend. Never mind that the people who look at that painting think that it was a great artistic addition and gives depth to what would otherwise look like an obnoxious representation of perfection. Isn't that funny? Perfection is dishonest, that's why we call it obnoxious, you understand? Perfection is dishonest, and that's why we call it obnoxious. And that's what you're being to yourself. You're being obnoxious to yourself because you're being dishonest with the energy that you're withholding. You're being dishonest about your expectation of yourself. You expect an outcome that is not possible. There is no possibility for the child in you to meet your expectations. Isn't that interesting? So it is then to begin to honor what is right rather than fixate on the minutia that is wrong that will assist you in overcoming the imposter syndrome. So now we want to say that this channel has decided to go back to school midlife, and they have gone back to law school. So whether you decide to undertake vocational training or undergraduate training, graduate training, professional training, it doesn't matter what you decide to undertake. Everyone feels some level of imposter syndrome. But remember what we told you. Remember, the energy is looking for its anchor. It's like this. It's looking. It anchors itself to that soul fragmentation. That soul fragment that refuses to honor you, you get the imposter syndrome. But if you look, if you allow it to look, and allow it to anchor itself to the soul-centered you, now you've got quantum manifestation, a very different experience than feeling the imposter syndrome. It might be the case that initially that this energy looking for an anchor finds the fragment. That's okay. You need to allow it to be okay and simply begin honoring yourself so as to begin to divorce that energy from the soul fragmentation, and then allow that soul fragmentation to integrate to the whole. So if that energy looking for an anchor finds its soul fragmentation, let it be okay. Honor yourself. Focus on what has gone right. Focus on honoring your hard work, your effort, and disaffirm your fixation on the minutia that is imperfection, or the minutia that you perceive to be imperfection. So once you have divorced the soul fragment and this energy trying to anchor itself, then now you can find your soul-centeredness and guide this energy to lock into the I am self as it is connected to all that is. So how do you do that? So remember, we said it doesn't matter what you undertake. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for a promotion, you're undertaking some kind of schooling. But for simplicity, we're going to use the concept of becoming a lawyer, because that is what the channel is undertaking at this moment. And she has the vocabulary to understand, the experience to be able to tell you a story that will make a point for any profession that you choose, for any endeavor for which you choose to make a quantum leap in your manifestation. So it is that if you're undertaking law school, there is this thing called the Socratic method, and it is when the professor often cold calls you, though not always, and asks you questions about the case you just read. The cases are difficult, you understand. They are difficult to read, and that is what lawyers are eventually learning. You're learning how to read this particular kind of discourse. And let's say as they cold call on a student, let's say the professor decides to ask 3 questions. The student gets 2 right, but the last one not quite right, which is common. The last question is often the most challenging, for the best Socratic questioners build up to some point, build up to a rule that can be taken from this case, and that's a very difficult process. That's the process that causes law students and lawyers so much stress. If this student who got the last thing wrong fixates that they got 1 wrong rather than honor that they got 2 right, they are in the imposter syndrome. And if they're in the imposter syndrome, then simply do what we told you before. Take the parent, change its perspective, and begin to change its perspective to honor that you got 2 right and 1 wrong. And the hardest 1 wrong. And as you do that, you begin to divorce this energy that needs an anchor away from the soul fragment, and the soul fragment begins to heal and begin to be integrated into the whole. So now that this energy that's looking for an anchor is divorced from the soul fragment, how do you connect it to your soul-centeredness? And this is when reflecting on your decisions And making decisions that is right action and right timing is very important, because it is that we have channeled it in another post with this channel, but it would be good before undertaking a legal education or any other goal or task for that matter, to ask yourself, what is the soul-centered reason you're doing this? You don't need to know exactly. You don't need to know, I'm going to be a civil rights attorney. For frankly, you don't. You don't know that that's where you'll be. There are immigration attorneys that work for Disney. There are immigration attorneys that work to help refugees and work for public interest law firms. But they're all doing immigration work. But it is, let's say that your interest is indeed in immigration law. What is your soul-centered reason for engaging in this area of law? Think aspirationally. Think aspirationally. We're going to make up a soul-centered reason for the purpose of this teaching. And let's say your soul-centered reason is that you yourself is an immigrant, and you wanna hold space for other immigrants to begin to be integrated to the greater American fabric, or whatever country you are in. This channel is in the United States, so we use America as an example. But you can simply swap out the United States for whatever country you are in. We do not exclude. And so that is an aspiration, and one could argue that it is an aspiration that has nothing to do with the law. That is okay. All you need to know in the beginning is you have this aspiration, you have this desire, and you have a genuine interest in the law, perhaps immigration law. In having these aspirations, in holding space aspirationally for yourself, you allow yourself to be flexible to move within that aspiration, so that your high self can guide you through the process of a legal education or whatever training you decide. If you are anchored, if you have done this exercise of understanding aspirationally why you're there, what is your purpose? What is your soul-centered aspiration for while you're there? And you have ensured that this aspiration is indeed soul-centered, at the moment of your loathing, when you fixate that you got the third and hardest question wrong, your soul-centered self, the I am within you, will automatically pipe in and say, it's okay, we are here because we want to help immigrants integrate with the greater fabric of America and have them enjoy the idea of America as you have. And there it is. It divorces the soul fragmentation and the unanchored energy, and automatically that energy begins to anchor itself into your aspiration, into your soul-centered purpose, and on why you have decided to undertake this goal to begin with. In this case, a legal education. So it is that if you're already in law school and you haven't done this exercise, don't panic, do it now. Do it now, and you will find, just as we said in the past, your experience, the way you experience law school will change dramatically, because you're anchored into your soul-centeredness, and these unanchored energies Do not stay within the soul fragment for very long. And in the process of you doing this and being anchored into a soul-centered aspiration, you assist your soul fragmentation to transmute and integrate back into the whole of your soul. And so it is. We will end this message as we end every message, and that is to invite you to call on our energies for support, and it will be so. And so it is. All right, it looks like end of message.